Welcome back. We are now doing episode 2 of Let's Keep This Constructive. Today we have Amanda Burt, who is going to actually give us an insight on how she got her position, how you can get into government work, if it's with a contract within the government or if it is directly with becoming a civilian government employee. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us today. Please tell us about yourself.
Hello. So my name is Amanda Burt. A little bit about myself. I'm in government contracting for the Department of War. I've been a contractor for a little over 4 years. I just recently had 2 children, 2 under 2. That's pretty much a little bit about myself.
I feel like I'm having a lot of parents on the podcast. I'm not a parent myself, so I don't, have to worry about that. What I want to talk about is, Amanda, who do you actually work for?
I actually work for a small business called Arlo Solutions. Our contract is actually held by another company, Rivet, and then we're subcontracted through Rivet. So it's Deloitte and Arlo.
And how does your company connect to government work or like the government connection in that aspect?
So our company is a small business, which the base of their company is to contract out people to support the government. So my company is a woman-owned, veteran-owned small business, and that's how they got into the contracting world. They're initially a cybersecurity company, and then they partnered with Deloitte and Rivet, which is they're consulting companies, and this is their first contract in the financing spectrum.
So that actually might be very nice, you being a new mother with 2 kids and also working for a woman-owned company. It's very empowering for women. Did that play a factor when you applied for this position? Were you familiar with the background of the organization?
No, I actually wasn't. Once I applied, I got a little bit more information. I found out that they were a women-owned company, and the funny thing is that when I did apply, I was pregnant, and I actually wasn't eligible for FMLA leave, which is, job security, you being out for up to 12 months in a year and then being able to come back to your role. But the company, it is a woman-owned company, so they do support the women of their workforce. So I was going to have to pay for my insurance out of pocket, but my company ended up paying for that while I was out on leave.
That's actually very, very, very admirable of a company. I want to say that, admirable. I want to tailor back to your overall contract. Well, what does it mean being on a contract? Like, what does that actually mean for your job or your...
So I don't really do any work for Arlo per se. I do work for the federal government. So my tasks come directly from the government, and my company really sends me a paycheck at the end of the day. So usually government contracting starts with a 5-year contract. So 5 years ago, my company went to bid for the contract, and they eventually won the contract. So right now I'm on option year 4. So each year you go up for option. You initially win the contract for 5 years, but the government each year can decide if they want to keep the contract or if they want to change anything. This is our first year that we ended up losing a lot of people in the contract because another part of the contract needed additional funding. So we lost a couple people. So for job security, it isn't 100% because you are a contractor, and contractors, the government can decide to end the contract at any point of time.
So if someone wants to apply for one of these jobs, they wouldn't go to the USA Jobs website. What avenue would you actually have them go if they want to be in a position in your field of data analyst or financial analyst?
So USA Jobs is for civilians. So if you want to be in the government, you would go apply to USA Jobs. But if you want to do contract work, you can go on LinkedIn, Indeed, any of those websites, or even just a quick Google search and just look up government contractors, and it'll give you a list of different companies. There's a bunch of companies that have contracts with the federal government. We have like Deloitte, KPMG, the big fours. They all support government contracts.
Now, did you want to get into this kind of field when you started looking for your career, or where were you that led you to this kind of direction?
I actually didn't know anything about government contracting. While I was in college, I went to school for accounting. So my initial career path, what I wanted to do was financial advising. When I started to do a little bit more research, that's more of a client base. Like you need to find clients, and that wasn't really what I wanted to do. It seemed more like a sales position to me. So when I was working at the bank, decided this wasn't the career I wanted to go in for the rest of my life. So I started doing some searches for jobs, and I ended up finding a data analyst position, which I didn't really know was a contracting position until I went to the interview, and then I ended up getting the job there.
Pretend I'm a toddler in a diaper right now, all right? And can you explain to me what your day-to-day actually is?
My day-to-day is kind of different every day, just to sum it up. So we were contracted out because the Department of War decided they needed a new accounting system. They transferred everything from one accounting system to another accounting system, but they didn't transfer all the data. So that left us with a bunch of invoice errors. So what I do every day is I go into the accounting system and we fix the errors. So if a contract is overbilled, we do the research to figure out if it's overbilled, why it's overbilled. Sometimes a contract needs receipting. We have to do some reconciliation between the contract invoicing and then the receipting. And then we have invoices that are on hold, and those are invoices that are paid, but for some reason we're getting an error that in our accounting system they're unpaid or unmatched. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Cool. So do you feel more aligned with the contract company in your role, or do you feel more aligned with the government side of it?
Well, so my first contracting company, I didn't meet anyone. I never met anybody face to face. But this contract company, they're very people oriented. They enjoy meeting their employees. They have a lot of gatherings. So I would say I'm pretty connected to my contracting company, which is very rare in government contracting. But as for like my day-to-day job, I'd say I'm more aligned with my job in the government.
Okay, so that kind of goes to my next question, because I was going to ask if you feel like your boss is your company or the government. But based on your answer, I can assume that you kind of feel like the government is kind of mainly the one dictating your day-to-day operations.
Yes, so I don't get any tasks from my actual company who pays me. The only thing I have to do for them is do my timesheet.
Okay, so I want to go into more deeper detail on how to get into your field and what companies should people who want to get into your field look for.
So there's a lot of small companies. If you're first trying to start into government contracting, I would start with the small companies. There's so many. A quick Google search and you can go to their website and see what they're looking for. A lot of contractors are hiring for either data analysts, financial analysts, internal controls, audit remediation. There's even contracts for people that want to do like construction or anything else besides like accounting and finance. They have IT, etc.
What would you say is the easiest entry point to join this kind of field? Like, what would someone who is having a hard time getting into kind of more advanced roles, how can they get their foot in the door?
It's easier to get into a smaller company than like one of the big fours like KPMG, EY, Deloitte. So it's easier to get your experience with a smaller company and then potentially going to one of the big fours.
Okay, and now you did touch a little bit on this earlier in the segment, where what would you say is a pro and a con? Because I think you mentioned job security would be a con, is what I'm assuming, to pass over to you in a second. But would you say salary negotiation, where would that fall under, and also kind of growth or opportunity within that kind of industry?
So contracting is always going to make a lot more money than government employees because, government employees get a pension, they get job security, but contracting work, you don't get that. After 5 years, your contract could end up losing your contract and having to find something else. Recently, we just hired 2 people and 2 months later, we had to let them go because we lost funding on the contract. But as for salary, you're going to get a lot more money doing government contracting because it isn't as secure. So if you do want to grow in your role, you're likely going to have to go to different companies because this is where I'm at right now in my career, and I started 3 years ago and my experience has blossomed. So I'm not more of a junior analyst anymore. I'm more of a subject matter expert. But when they bidded the contract 5 years ago, it isn't the salary that I have become today. So if I did want to get additional or an increase in my salary, I would likely have to leave.
Okay, now I want to actually go into this part because the job security part kind of scared me, and I don't think I have a different mindset on that one. Realistically, if your contract were to end next month, where would you be if you didn't have anything lined up afterwards?
Well, usually what happens is if they don't win, like if my company doesn't win the contract, another company wins the contract, and then that company can end up retaining you as their employee. So you have the option to either go with them or go somewhere else. But sometimes there's nowhere else to go, and I would have to find another position. And since I've been doing government contracting for the last 4 years, it wouldn't be too hard. But with the job market right now, I would potentially have to take a pay cut.
Is it possible that when the other company takes you on, if they take you you on, they could also lower your salary or increase it?
It's likely they'll increase, but not a lot, maybe like 3 to 5%.
All right, I mean, so contracting is kind of like enjoy it while you still have it.
Yes, but it's a good time when you're doing these contracts and you're really fresh on the contract, that you learn as much as you can because you want to be indispensable. So right now I am indispensable in my job right now because we had a team of 6, and very unlikely the government picks certain people to stay, but I was one of the 2 people that was picked to stay. So when you get into a government contracting role, it's good to start on the first option year and then learn as much as you can.
So does your day-to-day involve you working a lot independently, or does it kind of consist of you getting dragged into a lot of like team meetings throughout the day?
So when I first started the contract, we had a different manager from the government, and she was heavy on meetings. So I was constantly in a meeting all day. Today, I am working independently. You know, of course, I have to get on some meetings now and then, but majority of my day is spent doing work on my own. So that's pretty much it.
And are these meetings kind of like all hands meetings where you guys listen to like one person and not really have all your hands in the mix, or is it kind of just like collaboration? Give me the average layout of these meetings.
So typically in a week, I'll probably have 5 meetings. So we have a weekly meeting for status updates with our core, and then we have another weekly meeting with our project manager on the Deloitte side, so we give him update. And then we're actually starting a new weekly meeting where we're going to invite the other government employees, and they'll have a chance to ask us questions, how to resolve answers. So it's going to be like more of an open forum, but majority of the time in the meetings, everybody's collaborating. It's not just one person presenting.
Yeah, I can't do too many meetings. I'll definitely just I'll log in and probably walk away at that point. But that's just me. Okay, well, I think that is mainly a lot of the questions I have regarding, your day-to-day. So the next topic I want to talk about actually is going to be being a working mom and how that plays into your day-to-day, being that you are hybrid. So you go into the office and you also work at home.
So I am hybrid. So I go into the office 2 days a week, and then I telework 3 days a week. So that is extremely beneficial as a working mom, because if I were to have an appointment for one of my kids, I would be able to just take an hour, leave my house, and then go to the appointment versus having to leave work, come home, pick up the kids, take them to a doctor's appointment. And then also I do have childcare, so that's a huge benefit, which a lot of people, it's hard nowadays. Childcare is very expensive, but I don't think I'd be able to take care of 2 kids and work at home.
That kind of covers the next question, because it was saying like if being on a contract makes it easier or harder as a parent, but from what I'm hearing, you have a really good balance on that one. But now I want to touch the hybrid part. I really want to ask you this question because the stereotypes of being remote is when I'm at the office, I work. When I'm at home, I'm watching Netflix. So I want to know, what is the truth?
Yes, so that is a stereotype, but for my position I'm currently in, I am working. This role does require me to work, and sometimes I do work a little bit after, my 8 hours, but I am able to flex some of my hours. So if I were to take a doctor's appointment, I am able to work in the evening to make that up instead of using my PTO. I'm heavily relied on for the government. I am working all the time.
You heard that here first. Okay, so do people underestimate how serious the work actually can be within your role?
To an extent, yes. So I did gain a lot of knowledge, and I've taught myself a lot. So since doing that, I am asked to do a lot of work. And I think since we did lose, our contract went from 6 people to 2 people, I think now the government is realizing how much we did on the back end. And now they're seeing how much work we actually did in an 8-hour day.
And with your time at work being taken, your time at home being taken, are there any times that you have to, for other like professional or personal developments, like skill buildups, like, Power BI, Excel, PowerPoint, AI, or something like in that nature? Or is it work, parent, and there's no room for in between?
Well, you can always make time. You as the person have to make the time. I did start boosting up my Excel skills because I think that's really needed. And then for like Power BI, there is classes, but I haven't really, dove into that. But my company actually offers $5,000 to career development. So that's a plus.
So from what I'm hearing, the government does allow a little more room. Now, when I say government, sorry, I want to clarify that I'm talking about the companies you're contracted with for the government. government provide a lot of flexibility for your overall personal life, which is good. And what's one advice you would give to someone who wants to be in this field and is in kind of a similar position as you personally or even professionally?
Don't be afraid. If you see something in the job posting like a clearance, most of the time your contract company will provide that clearance for you. For my current job that I have right now, I was required to have a public trust, but I actually didn't have one, and they ended up moving forward with my application. So I would just try, look at the job posting. Sometimes it doesn't align with what you're doing, but really they might just want somebody fresh so that they can train.
Can anyone get a clearance?
No, a company would have to sponsor you because they have to pay for it. But if you were to leave a company, you have about a year or two to keep your clearance without a sponsorship.
Okay, that's disappointing because I really want high level clearance, and I feel like like maybe presidential clearance. I can keep a secret, I don't really gossip that much. I mean,
If you were gonna get us some high clearance, you would definitely be on a building where you couldn't bring your phone in.
I don't want it now. I need to be on TikTok. That's my thing. I doom scroll.
If you have a high clearance, sometimes you can't even have TikTok on your phone or any type of social media.
Oh, that's a problem. I have followers. Like, no. Okay, so I'm good being a non-clearance civilian. I can, I have the gift for gab apparently. So I'll do a different route for my career. All right. But thank you, Amanda, for stopping by the show. I really appreciate you being here, and we got a lot of good information from you, and I hope the listeners who are interested in going into your field can take what you provided and really thrive in their potential future opportunities. Thank you so much.